The night had a chill to it, the kind that seeped into the bones and made the world feel eerily still. His footsteps crunched along the gravel path as he wandered through the park, the moon casting pale shadows across the empty benches and leaf-strewn walkways. It was one of those nights where solitude felt heavier, pressing down like a weight he couldn't shake off. He had come here to clear his mind, to escape the monotony of another lonely evening trapped within the silence of his apartment. The park was his haven, a place where the quiet at least felt natural, not a suffocating void. As he walked, lost in his thoughts, he spotted her. She was sitting alone on a bench near the small pond, her figure draped in the soft glow of a lamppost. Her hair spilled over her shoulders like ink against porcelain skin, and her eyes, distant and thoughtful, gazed out over the darkened water. He hesitated, his feet slowing as curiosity bloomed within him. What was a girl like her doing out here alone at this hour? The park was no place for anyone to linger at night, but something about her calm presence made the loneliness of the night seem less oppressive. Against his better judgment, he approached her, his voice tentative but friendly. "Not the safest place to be hanging out this late, you know." She glanced up, her eyes locking onto his with a mix of surprise and amusement. "I could say the same about you." He chuckled, her quick response disarming. "Touché. I guess I like the quiet. It helps me think." She smiled, the expression both genuine and a little sad. "Me too. It's nice to just get away from everything for a while." He nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief at her openness. "Mind if I sit?" "Go ahead. The park's big enough for the both of us." He took a seat beside her, the coolness of the bench biting through his jacket. Up close, her beauty was even more striking, delicate features paired with a strength that seemed to radiate from her calm demeanor. They exchanged names, introductions slipping into casual conversation. He found himself talking more than he intended, his words pouring out in a way that felt oddly liberating. She listened with an attentiveness that made him feel seen, her gaze never straying even when his sentences tangled in awkwardness. "What about you?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Why come here so late?" Her smile wavered, her gaze drifting toward the pond's rippling surface. "Sometimes, I just need to be somewhere that feels quiet. Away from everything." He understood that feeling all too well. And somehow, their shared desire for solitude didn't feel like a barrier. It felt like common ground. "So, do you come here often?" he asked, his tone light but his interest genuine. "Sometimes," she admitted. "It's a good place to get lost for a while." They sat there in a silence that felt more comfortable than anything he'd experienced in a long time. And when she finally looked at him again, her eyes held a warmth that invited him to stay. Their conversation drifted like the night breeze, flowing effortlessly between light-hearted banter and moments of quiet sincerity. They spoke of nothing and everything, favorite books, half-forgotten dreams, the way loneliness sometimes crept in like a thief when the world felt too quiet. He couldn't help but be drawn to her. It wasn't just her beauty, though that was undeniable. It was the way she listened, her attention unwavering, her responses thoughtful. The way she seemed genuinely interested in his words, even the clumsy, half-formed thoughts he rarely shared with anyone. "Strange, isn't it?" he said, his voice softer now. "How two strangers can just connect out of nowhere." She nodded, her smile gentle and knowing. "Sometimes that's how the best connections happen. No expectations. No pressure. Just understanding." He looked at her, his curiosity deepening with every passing moment. There was a mystery to her, something that hovered just beyond his reach. And he wanted to know more, to unravel whatever secret she held beneath that calm, composed exterior. "So, do you always spend your nights wandering around parks?" he asked, his tone teasing but his interest genuine. She laughed, a sound that warmed the cool night air. "Not always. Just when I need to clear my head. But tonight, well, I guess I was just hoping for something different." "Different how?" "Something that feels real. Something that doesn't just fade away the moment it's over." He nodded slowly, her words striking a chord within him. He knew that feeling all too well, the search for something meaningful in a world that often felt hollow. And somehow, in the quiet of the night, with only the faint rustle of leaves and their voices breaking the stillness, he felt like he'd stumbled upon something real. "Well," he said, his smile hesitant but genuine, "I'm glad I decided to walk through this park tonight." "Me too," she admitted, her gaze holding his with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. Maybe it doesn't have to end here." He blinked, surprised by the invitation that lingered in her words. "What do you mean?" She glanced away for a moment, her fingers tracing idle patterns along the edge of the bench. "I live nearby. Just a few blocks from here. If you're not in a hurry to get back home, you could come over for a while. Just to talk. Or whatever." The suggestion hung in the air, delicate and uncertain. His mind raced, the offer both thrilling and unnerving. But the warmth in her eyes, the openness in her expression, made the decision feel less like a gamble and more like a possibility. "I'd like that," he replied, his voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in his chest. "Lead the way." She rose from the bench, her smile transforming the night from something cold and empty to something alive with promise. As they walked away from the park, their footsteps falling into an easy rhythm, he couldn't help but feel that this night was about to change his life in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. Her apartment was a modest but cozy space, the kind of place that felt lived in and welcoming. Soft, amber lights cast a gentle glow over mismatched furniture and shelves lined with books and trinkets. The air held a faint scent of lavender, calming and inviting. "Make yourself comfortable," she said, gesturing toward the cushioned sofa as she locked the door behind them. "Can I get you something to drink? Tea? Wine?" "Tea sounds great," he replied, his voice steadier than he expected. The reality of being in her home, surrounded by her presence, felt surreal. But it was a good kind of surreal, like something dreamed into existence by a restless mind. He settled onto the sofa, his gaze wandering over the room. Paintings hung on the walls, abstract pieces brimming with emotion. Books lay scattered across the coffee table, their worn spines suggesting they'd been read and reread countless times. There was a warmth to the place, a reflection of her in every detail. She returned with 2 steaming mugs, her smile easy as she handed him one. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment, he felt the quiet intensity of her gaze. "Nice place," he said, inhaling the soothing aroma of chamomile. "It feels real. Like it has a story." Her lips curled into a thoughtful smile. "I guess it does. It's not much, but it's mine. A little corner of the world where things make sense." "I get that. It's good to have something that feels like yours." They sipped their tea, the silence between them comfortable rather than strained. Words seemed unnecessary, the quiet settling over them like a blanket. Eventually, she spoke, her tone soft but curious. "So, what about you? What's your corner of the world like?" He chuckled, the sound bitter around the edges. "More like a showbox, really. Just a tiny apartment and a lot of lonely nights. Nothing like this." "You say that like this place is special," she replied, her gaze searching his. "It is. It feels alive." Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The night had brought them together for reasons neither of them could fully grasp, but neither seemed willing to question it. "Do you ever feel like you're just drifting?" he asked, his words tumbling out before he could stop them. "Like you're waiting for something to happen, but you don't even know what that something is?" She stared at him, her expression unreadable. "More often than I'd like to admit. Maybe that's why I was out tonight. Looking for something that feels real, even if just for a little while." "Maybe we both were," he said, the confession leaving him feeling vulnerable but strangely liberated. She reached out, her hand finding his. The touch was light, tentative, but it carried a weight that spoke of shared loneliness and unspoken desires. "Maybe tonight can be that something," she whispered, her words threading through the quiet like a promise. He met her gaze, his own yearning reflected in her eyes. Whatever this was, however brief it might be, he was willing to embrace it. The night deepened as their conversation flowed, shifting from shared loneliness to unspoken desires. Their closeness felt natural, a fragile connection made stronger by the quiet confessions they exchanged. As laughter softened into silence, she leaned closer, her fingers brushing against his arm. The touch was tender, deliberate, and laced with unspoken invitation. Their lips met in a kiss that held all the words they hadn't spoken, a desperate need for warmth in a world that often felt cold. They moved with an urgency that came from knowing moments like these were rare and fleeting. When they finally pulled away, breathless and tangled in each other's arms, the silence between them was thick with meaning. They made their way to her bedroom, their steps unsteady but sure. The night unfolded around them in whispers and laughter, their bodies drawn together by something they couldn't quite name. It wasn't love, not yet, at least, but it was something powerful, something real. As dawn crept into the room, painting the walls in hues of silver and pale gold, he stirred awake. The warmth of her beside him was a comforting weight, her presence a quiet reassurance against the solitude that had plagued him for so long. But when his eyes adjusted to the light, His heart sank. The bed was empty, the sheets cool where she had once been. A knot of panic twisted in his chest as he scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on a folded piece of paper resting on the nightstand. His name was written in her elegant handwriting, the letters delicate and precise. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the note and read, "Thank you for last night. It was beautiful, and you were everything I needed when the world felt too heavy. But I can't stay. I wish I could explain why, but some things are better left unsaid. Take care of yourself, and remember me kindly." The words blurred before his eyes, the meaning sinking in with a dull ache. Part of him wanted to be angry, to shout at the unfairness of her sudden departure. But beneath the disappointment lay a quiet understanding. She had been searching for something, just as he had. And for one brief, shining moment, they had found it in each other. It didn't matter that it couldn't last. What mattered was that it had happened at all. He placed the note back on the nightstand, his fingers tracing the delicate handwriting as if trying to hold on to the memory of her. The emptiness of her absence was undeniable, but it no longer felt quite so crushing. Maybe she had given him something more valuable than companionship. Maybe she had given him hope. With a deep breath, he stood and made his way to the door. The morning felt less daunting now, its light a gentle promise rather than a harsh intrusion. And as he stepped out into the world, he carried the memory of her with him, a reminder that even the loneliest nights could end in something beautiful.